person, and then withdrawing that same foot again, and repeating that a couple of times. Would that be a fair description of what you just did? When you said that this individual was doing that, was he doing it towards you?
In my general direction.
Was there anyone else around you that he was doing that to also?
There was an individual to my right and to my left. I don't recall who they were.
Do you know if those were other individuals that were guarding that car source location?
They were, yes.
Do you know if any of them was the defendant?
I don't recall.
At the time that you had this interaction with Mr. Rosenbaum, were you armed?
Yes.
Can you tell us how you were armed?
I had my weapon slung and the point to the ground.
When you say your weapon, you mean your AR-15?
Correct.
Was there a sling around your body that the weapon was attached to?
Yes.
And when you say the gun was pointed to the ground, was that in such a way where the butt was maybe at the middle of your chest and then
facing like this?
At an angle?
Correct.
Okay. So the butt is sort of at an angle towards one of your shoulders, and the barrel is downward at maybe a 45-degree angle or thereabouts?
Yes.
Did you have any other weapons other than that AR-15 that night?
I had my knife.
Anything else?
I had a CS gas canister.
What is a CS gas canister?
It is a deterrent. It's like pepper spray, but a lot more potent.
Is that also commonly referred to as tear gas?
Yes.
Or is there a technical difference between?
There's a technical difference, but for the records, yes, tear gas.
Where did you physically have that canister located on your body?
In my dump pouch.
Did you say dump?
Yes. Okay. It's a pouch that you put on your opposite side to put empty magazines in.
Was there ever a time in which you pulled that canister out to use it?
When the protesters had started pushed my way and started causing a ruckus, I had put it on a car in front of me. And I needed to use it.
You put it in the place where you could get at it if you needed it. After you put it on that car, did you ever grab a hold of it with the intent of getting it ready to be used?
It fell off the car.
Where did that CS gas canister come from?
An individual, I think his name's Dustin. I don't recall his actual name, it starts with a D.
Is that one of the other individuals that was there at that location?
Yes.
So you had the AR-15, the knife, and the CS gas canister.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Did you have any other weapons on you?
No.
I know we've talked a little bit about the false stepping that Mr. Rosenbaum was doing, and you said there were two other individuals, one on either side of you. Is that right?
Yes.
Are you able to tell us if Mr. Rosenbaum was doing this directly at any one of the
He was
three?
just in our general direction.
How far away was he from you when that was going on?
I want to say a max of 6 feet.
Did he ever touch you?
No.
Did he ever threaten to harm you?
Outside of his banter, no.
When you say his banter, what specifically in his banter did you construe as a threat to harm you?
I really didn't see him as a threat at all, to be honest with you. But it would be his false stepping and his banter saying, shoot me, explicit term.
Did you interpret him saying, shoot me, as a threat to you?
No.
Did you interpret it as a threat to anyone else?
No.
How long did Mr. Rosenbaum continue this behavior before you turned your back on him and walked away?
I'm not sure, but it wasn't very long. He had done it maybe 1 or 2 times, and I just ignored it.
Do you recall putting out any fires that night? Can you tell us about that?
The first one I put out, it was just north of the car lot. Somebody had set up a deliberate barrier and set what you'd call like a campfire behind it and set it on fire to deliberately set fire to the barrier.
want to make sure I understand that. You said they set up a small barrier.
It was rather large barrier. It was taller than I was. It was a wooden structure.
Do you know what type of wooden structure it was?
It was just a rickety structure. I don't recall.
Do you know where it came from?
No.
Did you see any of the individuals who started the fire?
No.
Do you recall where that was located in relation to the 59th Street car source lot?
That was just in front of the church, or the demolished church.
There's actually a little laser pointer in front of you. There's a button on the side, and when you point that, could you use that and point on the map where that fire was?
Right there.
And I just want to narrate for the record, that appears to be a location, was that on Sheridan Road?
Yes.
North of 59th, closer to 58th Street. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
What did you do in response to that fire?
I stomped it out.
With your feet?
Yes.
Did you use any sort of fire extinguisher or water?
No.
This is not going well
What
for the
happened
prosecution.
after you did that?
After that, I had walked back to the car lot.
You mentioned there were other fires you put out?
Yes.
Tell us about those.
There was a few after the incident. There was one on the
I don't know if anybody's been watching this all day. But it's
car
a-
lot. There was a
been pretty
pickup
brutal.
truck that the interior was on fire. Then I had found a fire extinguisher next to it. I had put that one out.
Doesn't seem like the prosecution
And
was
then
very
there was
prepared.
Another one that I couldn't put out because the fire extinguisher
There's
was
that
stuck.
old axiom, never
There was cars
ask a
around
question you
it.
don't know the
Myself
answer
and
to.
another individual.
They've
I
answered
was
many.
away from that.
They've asked many questions they don't know the answers to.
I believe you said that was those two fires were after the incident.
Yes.
What incident are you referring to?
The incident with, I don't want to, the incident with Kyle.
The shootings.
Yes.
I want to try and keep this in chronological order as best we can. So if we can just go back for a minute to the 59th Street car source. While you were at that location, other than the barrier in the street that you described, did you put out any other fires around that area?
No.
Do you remember a time in which there was a dumpster on fire out in the street?
I don't recall, no.
And I believe you said other than the one interaction with the false stepping, you didn't have any observations or contact with Mr. Rosenbaum at any other time that night.
Correct.
We've heard a lot of testimony and seen videos of what we now know to be the shootings. And I think everybody's got a good idea now with hindsight of the sequence of those events. But what I want to ask you is, on that particular night, do you remember hearing or observing those shootings?
I remember hearing gunfire, yes.
Where were you located when you heard that?
At the car lot on 59th to Sheridan.
The original one that we've been talking
Yes.
about. From what direction did you hear those shots coming
From
from?
the south.
What did you do, if anything?
Ran toward them.
That would be running, and I'm going to use the pointer here, that would be running in a direction from the car source at 59th and Sheridan, south on Sheridan Road.
Correct.
Do you remember encountering a line of armored police vehicles?
I don't recall.
Tell us what you remember. When you heard those gunshots and started running, tell us what you remember about that.
There was myself and another individual, I believe his name is Dustin, I don't remember his actual name. Him and I ran down there. Once I got down there, I was by myself, I don't know where he went. And then I got to the corner of the lot, which there's an alleyway there, and then the lot, there's a fence line. And then from there, Mr. Rittenhouse came up to me. He had said, I don't remember exactly what he had said, but he had said something to me. And then I had told him to run toward the police, which he did. I had followed him a little ways, but then there was gunfire behind me. So I turned around to attempt to assess that, and then once again there was gunfire behind me. And at that point, that is when pretty sure I blacked out. I don't remember anything after that.
You said you're pretty sure you blacked out?
Yes, I don't remember anything. The next thing I remember is helping out with Gage.
I want to try and break that down if we can. You indicated that at some point as you were running south on Sheridan, you encountered the defendant.
Yes.
Are you able to show us on that map where that encounter occurred?
About right there.
And you've pointed to a location which is on the west side of Sheridan Road. It appears to be right at the boundary between that 63rd Street car source and the property that is located just to the north of that, on the west. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. How did the defendant appear to you?
Frazzled. In shock.
Did he have his weapon?
Yes.
Where do you know where he came from?
He ran from the car lot.
Were you still running at that point?
At that point, when I linked up to him, I stopped.
When you stopped, did you come in close proximity with the defendant?
Yes.
Did you say anything to him, if you recall?
I don't recall.
And I think you indicated earlier you don't remember what he said to you.
I do not.
Now, do you remember after this night speaking with the FBI?
Yes.
And that conversation occurred about a week later?
Yes.
And do you remember telling them what the defendant had said to you?
I remember telling them yes.
If I showed you a copy of that statement, would that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
May I approach that? Statement, and there's a portion here that is marked, and I would like you to take a look at that. I'll take as much time as you need, and when you're done looking at it, please look up. Does that refresh your memory as to what you told the FBI?
Yes.
Does it refresh your memory as to what the defendant said to you when you encountered him?
He had indicated that he had shot somebody.
You know why he did that? Because he did shoot somebody.
Mr. Rakowski,
Sorry, did not shoot anybody. I apologize.
just want to make that clear.
Did not shoot anybody.
When the defendant spoke to you, he said he didn't shoot anyone.
Correct.
But he said he needed help.
Yes.
What did you tell him?
I told him to run to the police that were down the road.
What did you do then?
At that point, he started running. I followed him.
Let me pause for a second, and I just want to make sure we get our directions correct. What direction did the defendant run from there?
From here that way. So north.
North on Sheridan. And did you run in that same direction?
Yes.
What happened then?
And then there was gunshots behind me.
And when you say
Still
behind,
gunshots.
meaning back down south?
Yes.
What did you do then?
I stopped and turned around.
Where did you go?
It was in place because it felt like seconds after there was more gunshots behind me to the north.
More gunshots.
And that would have been the direction that the defendant had been running.
Yes.
Is that the moment in time when you feel like you kind of blacked out?
Yes.
And I think you said the next thing you remember is Mr. Grosskreutz?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I remember being on the sidewalk, and then there was an individual on the ground screaming. I had walked up to them with a group of individuals. Somebody was screaming for a tourniquet, I believe. So I had given an individual, I believe his name is CJ, I don't actually know if that's his name, I had given that to him. He had applied the tourniquet, he had done it wrong. So I pushed him out of the way, applied it correctly for the most part, and I stayed with Gage until police showed up.
What happened then?
And then the police showed up, told me to back off. I backed off. Once he was in the I had noticed an individual saying that there was a gun on the ground. He pointed to it and started walking toward it. I pushed him out of the way. I had picked up said firearm. I dropped the magazine and emptied the chamber.
I want to make sure the record is clear. You said.
Did he say that he?
You said someone was put inside of the.
Did he say that he told him to run to the police before he shot the third guy?
And then there was you said a gun on the ground. What type of gun was it?
It was a Glock.
A pistol?
Yes.
After you took care of neutralizing or disarming the gun, what did you do next?
The police had come up to me and told me to put it down, and then I had walked toward the sidewalk, and I believe I had headed south toward the car lot.
What happened then?
There was a bunch of reporters, I guess, over there talking to people, but no.
It's pretty good stuff. I read a lot about this, but I didn't read any of this.
I don't recall.
That's the right answer. I don't recall.
You mentioned that you dealt with a fire in a truck at the car source location?
Yes.
And found a fire extinguisher?
Yes.
Are you able to show us on the map where that occurred?
Yes.
Now, right, you are pointing to a location that is on the 63rd Street car source lot near the northeast corner of that lot. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Where did you find the fire extinguisher?
Right next to the truck.
And the fire
Who is it?
you said was inside the truck?
Yes.
Inside the passenger compartment?
Yes.
Let me get.
What did you do after putting that fire out, if you recall?
I put that fire out. There was another fire that was just on the opposite side of the building. There was a car on fire, and then the fire extinguisher was spent, so I couldn't use that, but there were cars around it, so it was myself and another individual, I don't recall who that individual was, had pushed, I believe, 2 vehicles away from it, so it didn't catch fire on those.
In the sequence of events that you just described, beginning with hearing the gunshots when you were at 59th Street all the way down to where we just left off, did you encounter Ryan Balch at any time?
Yes.
Do you remember when and where that was?
No. But I know that I did encounter with him.
Do you remember when you were at the car source lot at 63rd Street, being with Mr. Balch?
When I was putting out the fires, no.
After that, at that location?
After that, yes.
You mentioned some reporters down at the 63rd Street car source. Did you speak with them?
I avoided them as much as I could.
But that there were a number of them around you with cameras asking pictures, or asking questions of you?
Yes.
And they were also asking questions of Mr. Balch?
Correct.
During that process, did anyone show you an image or a video of the person who was suspected to have committed these shootings?
No, because they thought it was me.
Those people thought it was you?
Yes.
When did you first learn that it was the defendant?
I don't recall.
Was there a time when you were speaking with those reporters that you learned that the person who was suspected to have done these shootings was the defendant, Kyle Rittenhouse?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that those reporters were asking you who that person was?
They were asking me if I was the one that had done it, because they were looking for a tall white individual in AR-15 wearing a green shirt. And that's what I was wearing.
There were also people that were saying that the shooter was with your group.
Yes.
At that time, when they were saying that to you, you knew that was true, correct?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that you didn't volunteer that information at that time?
I did not.
Were there police cars nearby at that moment in time?
I believe there was a police blockade the west side of 63rd Street.
Did you ever approach any of the police that night and tell them what you knew?
No.
After dealing with the things that you dealt with at 63rd Street Car Source, where did you go?
We had gotten, Brian and myself had gotten into my truck, and we drove toward the other car lot to pick up a firearm and a police cell phone that was inside the building.
Whose property was that?
That was,
I mean, the cell phone and the gun. Who did those belong to?
Brian.
What happened when you got to the 59th Street Car Source?
It was locked and there was nobody there.
Go back to beginning of your night. You indicated that you arrived at that location around 10:45 p.m. And we talked a little bit about your interactions with the defendant. Did you bring along any medical supplies with you that night?
I did.
Why did you do that?
Just in case it was needed. Just in case it was needed.
Did you interact with the defendant with regard to those medical supplies?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
He had said he was an EMT. I said that if he needed anything to let me know, and then he had asked, I don't remember exactly what he said. He had said something, and then I remember giving him my flashlight, turning around and digging through my med bag.
I'm not sure I heard that word. You said digging through?
Digging through my med bag, yeah.
Was that the defendant doing that?
Yes.
Did he take any medical supplies from you?
I don't recall what he actually took. But yes, he did take some medical supplies from my bag.
Do you remember speaking to the FBI about those medical supplies?
Yes.
If I showed you a copy of your statement, would it refresh your memory as to what the supplies were?
Yes.
May I approach you? So Rukowski, I'm going to show you your statement. At the bottom of the first page, there's some items marked. Please look those over, and when you're done, look up. Take this and run to the next page.
Okay.
I'm going to take that back. Did that refresh your memory as to the medical supplies that the defendant followed from you?
Yes.
What were those specific items?
A quick clot, a bandage, and what you'd call a vitamin pack, which has a bunch of random stuff in it.
What is quick clot?
It is something that you use to stop bleeding. Severe bleeding.
Quick clot. Were you aware at that time what sort of medical supplies, if any, the defendant already had on him?
I was not aware, no.
One second, please.
Good morning.
Is it fair to say that prior to August 25th, you had never laid eyes on Kelly?
Correct.
After August 25th, have you ever spoken to Kelly?
No.
So, you didn't know who he was when you got there, and you haven't talked to him since?
Correct.
And you had made mention when speaking to Attorney Binger about shout, shove, show, shoot, right?
Yes.
Okay. In anywhere in that kind of command that you do, is run away or retreat? Is that in there?
No.
So if you shout at someone,
show them your firearm and they're still coming forward. Have you ever been trained to head for the hills, run away from them? No. Try to get yourself out of the situation that you're in? No. You watched the video? Have you watched the video for this?
I have watched several, yes.
Okay. Have you watched the video at Car Source at 63rd?
Not in its entirety, no.
Okay. So, you have you not seen what Mr. Rittenhouse did prior to the shooting?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, you saw Mr. Rosenbaum. Did you see Mr. Rosenbaum and Mr. Rittenhouse running through the parking lot?
Not that I recall, no.
Okay. So you arrive at 59th Street Car Source, 10:45-ish?
Around, yes.
And you have an AR-15,
Correct.
sorry. Same kind of situation that when you meet Mr. Rittenhouse, does he have? Right? He has an AR-15.
To a sense, yes.
You have more than he has, but you both are carrying the rifle.
Yes.
And he goes through some of those things.
He's got to do it.
Things and takes things that he yes. And you see him that night.
Hey.
And he is
Something
when
else.
you speak to him, you get his name and his EMT information.
Correct.
Is that about it?
Yes.
You see him that night.
I was watching in the other room. There was a different guy on.
Correct.
Do you see him that night threatening?
No.
Do you see him being aggressive in any manner toward anyone?
No.
You I'm gonna ask if you could take a peek at the report.
I think I went out there for a minute.
Can you tell me,
I don't know if you saw that the
Joseph Rosenbaum.
now did you
saw Comcast went out throughout the whole area. I think all of Chicago.
was his behavior such that made you remember him?
Yes.
Where's he going to go with that? Okay, so
Before the phone, can I ask one other question about this? You said you see Mr. Rosenbaum in that picture, right?
Yes.
Okay. There's a person behind Mr. Rosenbaum as well. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you recognize or do you remember seeing the person behind Mr. Rosenbaum?
No.
You don't remember seeing Mr. Rosenbaum?
I think it's the other guy, huh?
Now, you had said that
Usually when you see these
Mr.
prosecution,
Rosenbaum was
like remember OJ, forget OJ, the prosecutors were really
he's
out lawyered by the
yelling
defense attorneys.
in a crowd of people, right? We're talking about the Ultimate gas station.
No.
You remember seeing him at the Ultimate gas station or not?
No.
So where did you see him in particular?
I saw him on corner of 59th and Sheridan.
And when he was on, tell me if this is fair, when he's on the corner of 59th and Sheridan, he is yelling, "Shoot me," and then he uses the N-word.
Yes.
So he's saying, "Shoot me, N-word, shoot me, N-word."
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And to set the backdrop here, he's saying this in a protest for an African American man who was shot by police.
Correct.
And while he's saying, "Shoot me, N-word," you remember people behind yelling or chanting, "Black Lives
I don't recall.
Do you remember that night hearing people saying Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter?
Yes.
Okay. Are people reacting to him?
I gotta go up.
In a negative manner.
If I go to the YouTube feed, it's so far behind.
Screaming the N-word at a Jacob Blake protest.
In a negative manner, yes.
Okay. In
In a negative manner, yes. Stepping away from him.
Okay, so they're separate.
They should be stopping around 5 our time, right? So right up this Kenosha's right up the block.
Yes.
And you had said that he is, now I'll ask you this, at 59th Street, are there other people around?
Yes.
So it's not a situation, you had said that you didn't feel threatened.
Correct.
It wasn't a situation though where you were one-on-one with Mr. Rosenbaum, was it?
It was not correct.
Okay, so there's other people,
No.
are there other people that are protecting the business there as well?
Yes.
Okay, so you have support for that, for that.
Yes.
Yes. I'm trying to get other attorneys on here. Tomorrow we're going to have a host of us from the Chicago area to talk about this case. Then I think tomorrow there's when the defense going to get their time to put their witnesses up. We'll see how that goes because it's so far. I think if it goes that way, because I think it's too important of a case to have a directed verdict, and not let and let the judge take it out of the jury's hands and just say they haven't had enough evidence. Although I think it's possible because I don't know if they've had enough evidence. Everybody they seem to put forward, these are prosecutors' witnesses, and they seem to be witnesses for the defense.
If you would have done that, would it make you more concerned?
So
The situation dictates.
Okay, well, if I'm full stepping on you, okay, would you be more concerned instead of me full stepping if I'm coming full speed right at you?
Yes.
yes,
Fair, right? I mean,
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
running your personal space. I think
personal
you realize
space.
that.
Yes.
So one of the things I can do is take that gun.
Yes.
If I do.
Yes.
And if I threaten to kill you if I threaten that man, and then I'm running full speed at you and I'm going for your gun, would that, are those all?
I think so. That might make a little bit of a difference.
A threat to my life, yes.
Yes.
Now, you had mentioned that people were throwing chlorine gas bombs.
Yes.
I don't know if we've ever actually established what one of those is. It's a homemade device.
Yes.
And can you tell me what you saw that night in terms of these homemade gas bombs?
A water bottle with substance in it. You shake it up, throw it, and then it gets to a point where
Is that was in the bag? I still haven't. I've seen a lot of witnesses talk about it, but I haven't seen anybody say what was in the bag.
Some form of.
I think someone said they saw something they thought was ammonia, but they didn't know for sure if it was.
Yes.
And you were also getting hit with, now you say rocks. There's been testimony that
Concrete.
people were taking chunks of concrete or cement, breaking them on the ground.
Peaceful protest.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, so I know rocks come in different shapes and sizes, but we're talking about chunks of concrete. Yes?
Yes, sir.
All right. And I think you had mentioned in your statement to the FBI
Yeah.
that Mr. Rosenbaum was one of the people that you had encountered that night.
Yes.
And is that true?
Yes.
Has stood the test of time?
Yes.
Your recollection? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. There was some conversation that you had with Attorney Binger about your interaction with Kyle on Sheridan Road as he's running north.
Yes.
Trying to see how to work that out. I'm trying to see the chats over here.
For how long?
I couldn't tell you the time span.
If we go back here,
I want to see if we can do this. Is it
see my seconds.
Okay. Are there, if you know, are there people behind him running after?
Turn the volume up. I'll turn the volume. Is it my volume or just their volume?
Of people
Let's do that.
At one point, somebody did shout, "Get him!"
Is that better?
So I'm going to show
Let's
you
try to turn it up here. Maybe it's on here too. Turn it up over here. I think that's it too, right?
Supposed to be an HDMI or dot cam.
I turned it up, so it's going to take a minute.
Yeah, it says out of order.
I think it's going to take a minute for it to come up. I turned it up. This is all.
So Tom,
I was trying to make this right,
thank
so
you.
when I get the attorneys on
This is the
with me, that everything works. It's hard to know
So,
until you get on. Test the
Judge, I
system.
have marked this video as 41. I don't think there's an objection from the state to move it into evidence.
May I see it?
Yeah, this is just the front page of this is all I have. We're going to move the video eventually, but this is
It's the
front
identifying
page. Yeah,
document for the video. Go ahead. Received.
Slightly forward here, or
No, you can.
No. Well, okay. It's your. The defendant cannot currently see the screen. Oh, it's up now. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll stay out of it.
There's a screen there too.
I'll stay out of it. Okay. Oh, and he's got one there.
Judge Rogan.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to turn this off.
All right, who got?
Take screenshots. That dude shot him. That nigga just shot that dude. He's cranium that boy. He just shot a man.
Are you in this video? Can you tell?
I can't tell.
Are you, from your recollection, are you walking south on Sheridan Road at that time?
It should be louder now, though.
Yes.
Okay. So, is this about the location where you made contact with Mr. Rittenhouse, if you remember?
Approximately, yes.
Okay. Can you play the video? Is that you right there, Mr. Rittenhouse?
Yes.
Okay, so you have a brief conversation with Mr. Rittenhouse, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right?
Can you play it for one more second?
So that's me.
Okay, and
I'm not
being
remote.
critical. You keep walking then north on Sheridan?
Yes.
Okay. And you heard on the tape things like people saying cranium that boy.
I don't know.
Right? Cranium, like your head. Cranium that boy.
On the tape, yes.
Do you recall
He does, though, doesn't
hearing
he?
that?
You know what I read is that
No.
a lot of the prosecutor and
Now,
one of those detectives and
you
then
had
the mayor
told the
are all
FBI
the same family. So it's
that Mr.
incestuous in
Rittenhouse said to
Kenosha.
you,
One of the
I didn't shoot
prosecutors,
anybody, but I need
one,
help.
Yes.
Now,
detective that was
you'd
on
agree.
yesterday.
Well, tell me if you
And
agree.
sometimes when they ask him
The
to hold
statement
the
that
gun,
makes
it's that
more
same
sense
guy.
is,
And then,
I did shoot somebody,
and then
I
the
need
mayor
help.
of Kenosha.
Right? Why would he need help if he didn't shoot someone? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So
I don't know if you're still on. Tell me if
again,
if,
I'm not
if
being
the sound
critical.
is.
Are you? How
I
certain
had a
are you
complaint
that in
about the
fact
sound.
he didn't say
Trying to make sure the sound's okay.
I did shoot someone
that you can hear it
and I
well.
need help
And me
versus
and the
I didn't shoot
and
someone
the
but I need help.
I don't honestly recall.
and the stream.
Okay.
We're gonna have at least one. I'm gonna have at least one criminal attorney on tomorrow. We're gonna watch.
Are you at
maybe after the
after
today
Mr.
after
Rittenhouse
the
leaves
trial too.
and is
If you had
running
a chance to watch the trial.
north
I know
on
a couple
Sheridan
criminal
Road.
attorneys I'd like to get on. We can discuss this
Do
case.
you hear or see, if you recall,
I'm not a
any of
criminal
the
attorney.
people that are yelling at him?
So I'd like to get the insight
and
of some
running
criminal
toward
attorneys, what's
Do you remember
how that works.
seeing and
They
hearing
know
that?
much more about it than I do.
Yes, there was some individuals running toward him. At least they were running to the north.
So
Do you remember hearing them talking or yelling at him or not?
Outside of individuals saying, get him, no.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Outside of an individual saying, get him, no.
Okay, so you at least heard one person
Get
yell,
him.
get him.
Yes.
Get him. As they say, he said it 3 times.
And is it at that point then that
Can't really
you
make that
kind
out,
of-
though, when you watch
I think you told Mr. Binger at that point you had kind of blacked out.
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell us what that means to you?
What does that mean?
It's when you just go through the motions. I guess it's when your body just goes through the motions, and you're kind of like the lights on, nobody's home, kind of deal. It's when your body hits to a certain point of stress to where it just goes through the motions.
Okay, so in high stressful situations, your recollection of events for you becomes difficult,
Yes.
at least in this situation.
In this scenario, yes.
And
That happens. I use a camera. It's only on for half an hour. It only will stream for half an hour at a time, and then it resets.
or then what you recall
I
is
generally
making contact
do
with Gage
podcasts.
Yes.
Podcasts last 15 to 20 minutes, or
Yeah, that's-
usually not a problem unless I forget to
Sorry?
reset the camera. Sometimes I do. Sometimes
Now,
in the middle
do you
of
remember where you made
sometimes in the
contact
middle of
with
my
him?
stream that
Are
will
you
shut
on
down.
Sheridan Road?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the location? If you look at the map, does that help you? So this is 63rd, and that's 59th, up next from St. James Church. Do you remember where you are?
I think that's the difference there.
Oh, just before the intersection.
Okay. And
So I can go right to just to
that's a
him.
picture of Mr. Grosskreutz, right?
Yes.
That's just to him streaming.
He's holding
Then it goes back
a
to
black
the
pistol.
first.
Yes.
Does that appear to be, or look, I can't say does it appear to look like the pistol that you located on the ground?
Yes.
All right. That pistol that you located on the ground, you had said I think I'm going to use your term. You dumped the magazine, right?
I had dropped the magazine, then cleared the chamber. Yes.
Dropped. So the magazine is the, for lack of a better term, if we see TV.
Hey, let me know if you hear the
that goes
sound
into
well,
the-
because it's
the grip of the gun
there's been
that
some
bullets, right?
Correct.
been some talk, some comments
And
about the sound. I think I fixed it.
There was a magazine
I don't know
with
for sure.
bullets in there?
'cause I
Correct.
can't turn it
And then
on
you said you
and
cleared
find
the
out.
chamber.
After
Correct.
the stream, I'll go back.
It's when you take the top of the slide and rack it
how the
back.
sound came
Okay, so like you'll see on
up.
television or whatever, they pull it back and then the bullet can fly out.
Correct.
Yes.
Does there have to be a bullet in the chamber to fire the gun?
Yes.
Was there a bullet in that chamber?
Yes.
Yes.
So, in your training and experience with firearms, was that gun ready to be fired?
Yes.
It's pretty damning right there. The guy's coming on. He's the same guy that said yesterday.
in the past with some
weren't
witnesses,
you pointing your gun at him before you shot you? And he said
Mr.
yes.
Binger has asked them
That was the killer.
if they had shot anyone that night. And what I want to do is just ask you a couple questions about you that night, okay? Fair to say, no one verbally threatened to kill you, did they?
Not that I recall, no.
No one actually chased you, did they?
Not that I recall, no.
Did anybody ever say to you, forgive me, you won't do shit, motherfucker?
No.
No one ever said that
No.
to you?
Nobody ever said
Did
that.
anybody ever, well, were you alone at various times that evening?
Yes.
Okay. And you have military training?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever feel there was a situation where somebody had kind of snuck up on you or ambushed you that night?
No.
Is it fair to say the reason that you didn't
Again, kind
use your firearm that night
if
is
you listen to what
nobody had attacked you that night, right?
There's no need for it.
if it's working or not, if the sound is high enough. Can you hear the stream well? Can you hear me
Now-
well? Again, we're going to have some
After the shooting,
on
you
the
had
comment on
said
this.
that
I'm
you
sure
put
the
out
system is up and
a
running.
truck that was on
The
fire
sound
by
levels are right before I start getting on.
Car Source.
Yes.
We call it Car Source 3, but it's Car Source.
I don't have it right,
Yes.
so it's important. to get it
And
correct.
that, by happenstance, there was a fire extinguisher located close to that.
Yes.
Happenstance.
Did
Wanted
you
to say happenstance?
did you ever see Kyle walking back toward the police line on 60 or on 59th or 60th here? Did you ever see him walking back this direction after you had contact with him down here?
No.
Okay, so you don't know what happened after that.
No.
I just have one or two more questions for you. I just want to make sure that we're clear on your contact or interaction with Mr. Rosenbaum. Now, you had said that you had witnessed people pushing a lit dumpster in the road.
Problem is getting attorneys
Is that right?
that haven't
I did not know.
You did not see
watched
that?
this and they
Okay.
comment on it. That's the thing. Not that easy to do. So if you're watching, please
Were you
comment on the sound. On
ever
the sound.
at the Ultimate
I'm
gas
trying to
station?
get the sound right.
I walked
Watch.
past it,
Take a moment.
talked to some individuals there,
Let me know
and
what
then
the
just kept
level
on my
is.
merry way.
Okay, so the contact.
And if you don't comment, is it telling me that that you can't hear it? There is no sound.
Mr. Rosenbaum screaming the
Of course, then what are you watching?
saying, shoot me. It wasn't at this
You see
location.
the comment
it was
above
at
the
another.
list.
Correct.
About the, said it was too low; they could barely hear it.
So can I ask you this? When you left for the evening, you had driven down there, right?
Correct.
Was your vehicle damaged?
Yes.
How?
I had a smashed back window and a smashed front windscreen.
I'm sorry, front.
Windscreen or windshield. Yeah.
Okay. So you drove back to wherever you were with the smashed up.
They smashed his windshield.
Yes.
His windows in his car.
I think I just have one more question.
Well, ask him. I think they shut down about 5 o'clock every day. They're doing much. So hopefully after 5 now, so they'll be shutting down. There he is. Alright, that's Kyle. I talked to you guys. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to try to get this other lawyer. She used to be a prosecutor, so try to get her on. texting her now, see if I can get her on. As I said, it's hard to get people who are watching to find attorneys. I know a lot of attorneys but to have them that are watching the case and have an opportunity to comment on it.
So, if I can ask you, Mr. Lukowski, is that
And I remember
the
when
fire
OJ was out,
extinguisher
spent all day every day
recall that
watching
you
that
used
trial.
to put out the fire truck
1995.
that's next to it?
Yes.
Yeah, sometime.
That's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
How much redirect do you have?
Coming to the end for the day.
All right, let's take a break. Please don't talk about
Take a break.
please don't talk about the case during the break. Read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial.
See that guy there is not Kyle. That other guy there was the. Let's go. Yeah, well, I again, this is a test to see if I can get this on. See if we can get the attorneys on to help, and if I had the system. I use this remote system every day, but I never really got other attorneys live from remote, speaking on through here. When I do it at the radio station, they go through the board, so we usually do it through the telephone and not here. But I did test earlier with Attorney Shannon, and it did work well. So let's see, maybe I'm going to do one more thing here. I probably could. Let's do this. Try to put this up above me here so we can discuss some of this. Wow. Yeah. Are you going? There you go. Let's see where this goes. Oh, should be on there. Not to like and subscribe. Get that off. I think that's. Should be better now. There you go. Trial of cow. That's actually a good picture, so you could probably put that on there. Again, I think it's an interesting day. Remember, this is still the prosecution's case, and I think they've been hurt really hard by this case. I don't think they haven't accomplished what they were trying to do, and they, try to show that Kyle Rittenhouse was belligerent in any way, or reckless, or somehow he went out there wanting to kill somebody. I don't think they've proven that. Probably because that's just not the case. But again, we'll have to see how that goes. So I'm looking to see where this is showing up online. Yeah. Anyway, the Kyle Rittenhouse case. I don't know if they're going to come back for the day. It's after 5 o'clock. I know they're trying to get in as much as they can, so they can get this trial over with. But so far, maybe I should put this down a little bit more. Let me see. Let's try that. Is that better? Let's go back here. See if that's better. Okay. Again, I think, let's see how it changes here. I did watch most of the proceedings today. as I was working, and it kind of gets you spellbound, to be honest with you, because I was watching earlier another stream with some attorneys, and I thought, and as I said, man, I have good attorney friends who really know about criminal law, and this is what we should be talking about, right? So I got them online, and we're going to be talking to them probably tomorrow. We're going to get it on. So if you haven't get them on, so if you have an opportunity, join us here tomorrow. I hope to have at least a couple of other attorneys that we can have commentary on the case as it's going, and what their impressions are of it. Again, my impressions are pretty clear in that I think the prosecution has not done a very good job on this case. They haven't accomplished anything what they're trying to do. It seems like the witnesses seem to be testifying for the defense, and the defense hasn't even had a chance to put their case up yet. I know that they made a motion to dismiss one of the charges of violation of curfew. If I'm Kyle Rittenhouse, I wouldn't mind being prosecuted or found guilty of just that charge. But that charge, there was not enough evidence. They haven't presented any evidence of that, and so the judge did. I believe the judge did dismiss that charge. Again, the important charges are still pending, and we'll see how that goes. Let's see where else we are on this. Let's see where they are. I have the Law and Crime website also, and where they're talking about it, and some of the video. Discretion is advised. I remember this reminds me of I just recently subscribed to this service, and it reminds me of the old court TV. I used to love the old court TV where they what'd they change it to? I forget even what they changed it to, but I used to love the court TV and to watch it, all the trials that they had, and that's I find it amazing to watch trials, and too many don't. I know that up in Minnesota they just had this protest calling for to air these trials. I think it was one of George Floyd's nephew's cousins who was trying to out a lot of the jury. Today, the jury up in Rittenhouse case, the judge had to admonish some people for taking video of the jurors. They're trying to expose the jurors so people can start pressuring them on how they should find in this case. Of course, you're not supposed, the fear. I know that some people thought in the police officer's trial up in Minnesota, they believe that there was a lot of pressure on the jurors, and of course, if you don't know who the jurors are, then you can't pressure them. So that's what they're trying to do here in this case, is to hide the identity of the jurors. But I have my. I'm going to do my. I have never seen witnesses allowed to. I agree with that. That I've never seen that also, and this is what happens when they ask these questions that they don't know the answers to, and when you inconvenience witnesses and you treat them badly, and then you ask them to get up on stage or on the stand and support your position of what's going on, and there's a lot of conflict. And that conflict was apparent with the photographer today. It was very clear that he wasn't happy with the way the prosecution treated him. And they said, we never told you what to say. Oh, yes, you did. And I thought that was amazing. That was an amazing moment in this today. Yesterday, the amazing moment was when the victim, the gentleman who was shot in the arm. When he asked, did you point your gun at him? He says, yes. It was only then that he shot you. And he said, yeah, that's correct. And you know, that guy that killed that whole charge against that third man, the gentleman that was shot in the arm, right? He didn't say what everybody thought he was going to say, and you know, I guess that's trial. You've heard this before. Everybody's heard, you know, never ask a question unless you know what the answer to, and that's why he was going back and forth with him on his. Well, because all he has is what he had told the FBI or what he had told investigators or what he had told the prosecutor before. So he has those notes. And then she said, well, where in here did you say that? You know, that he came after you. Well, I didn't say that. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. And that, again, that was another time in this trial that really, I think, set the prosecution back tremendously. And I don't know if they'll ever be going to be able to recover from that. You know, they're not really, as I mentioned, they're not really making Kyle Rittenhouse look like a deranged fanatic who went up there to kill people. I think what the people that they're bringing forward are doing just the opposite. You know, that's showing that Kyle Rittenhouse was just a guy trying to help somebody out there. Yeah, we'll see where the trial goes. Let me see if I can. Again, I have a list of attorneys that I want to get on to talk about this case. Yes, the flatbed. I agree with that. Again, that the photographer really killed him on that whole case. The photographer was just brutal on their case. And, you know, that was 19 days later and you were still afraid. Yeah. I'm still afraid to this day. You know, I watched a man die. And I'm supposed to be level-headed and think about everything that happened. And of course, and again, that's the prosecutor there really treated that photographer terribly. He didn't give him any. As he said, as someone said in the comments, they were counterpunching. They were punching him, and he did come back. And so good for him. You know, they tried to put words in his mouth. I like that. That was the worst, though. As I mentioned, I think the worst one was, hey, we didn't tell you what to say. And he said, oh, yes, you did. You told me what to say. Oh, but we didn't. Oh, yeah, you did. so it's kind of amazing. So again, if you're watching, if you could do me a favor and you know, type in the comments whether the sound is good, because I want to make sure that the sound is working. So when we get on here tomorrow, because I'm trying to get a group of attorneys together to talk about this case tomorrow, and I want to make sure that the audio level works. And so again, if you have a moment, if you could type in the comments about how how the level is, I'd appreciate it. We should go back and try to capture some of these great moments on here when that flatbed comment, the comment about the photographer, the comment from this last witness, and everything that went on there. I wish I could find that. Let me see if we could find some video of that. To see if we can go back. Let's see. Well, let's do this. Let's see what this was all about. They're doing some review of this earlier witness. I thought she was a very good witness.
So when you say that I gave something to the defense attorney, I don't think that was my video. I think it was probably a video I seen or something I passed along, because I didn't take any video.
So it's fair to say that whatever you gave to the defense, you were trying to help the defendant, correct?
Yes, I was trying to help the case, not just the defense.
Not just the defense. Boy,
and you have watched a lot of the videos that have been put out on the internet of this evening, correct?
That is not true.
I thought she was a very good witness.
Have you watched any of them?
Yeah, I've watched some of them, yes.
Devastating.
The reason I ask is because you referenced these words that
put it on, but, what are you
Joseph Rosenbaum allegedly said to you and the members of your group. That's not on any video anywhere, is it?
When the photographer said, we said, I don't want to go. I'll go back to
So
jail. I'm
you
not afraid of going
are
back
from
to
West
jail.
Bend,
Then you
correct?
So now you got to.
You don't live here in Kenosha?
Knows, hey, this guy's in
You don't
jail.
work here
This guy's in jail.
Kenosha.
Is it ever going to come out that
You've never worked at Car Source?
Convicted of,
Never bought a car at Car Source?
child
Nope.
Probably had never
sex
even
crimes?
heard of Car Source before all this.
No,
If they
I
hear
haven't.
about that, won't that?
You came down here that night
But
with
isn't it
no
the truth?
plan
And should they know
of where
about
you
that?
were going to
Does it
be,
work on
what
anyone?
businesses you were
I
going to
don't know.
protect, or anything
That's
along
something
those
the
lines.
judge,
Fair?
the judge is trying to keep
personally
that
had no
out
plan,
of
correct.
what's going on. in
You
this.
were coming down
They're
with a
trying to
group
keep
of
that
other
out.
people from the West Bend area, correct?
Yes.
You knew there was a curfew in place that night.
Actually, I didn't.
You knew that they were closing off the on-ramps
Actually, I
off the
didn't.
interstate
You knew.
so
Yes.
people couldn't
Actually,
come
I
in
didn't.
from out of town to our community like you, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
In fact, that's why you came down a little earlier to try and beat that, didn't you?
No, that is not true.
No.
You brought along a 380
Yes.
pistol.
Yes.
Yes.
You were going to use that
Totally
to
legal.
protect property.
And myself, yes.
And myself.
How were you going to use that pistol to protect
I
property?
like this. This is
Sometimes a presence speaks louder than a lot of things.
The presence of what?
The presence of having the gun and being there at the business.
Were you openly carrying the gun?
Yes, I was.
So you didn't have it in a holster or in a
I did have
waistband?
it. Yeah, I'm sorry. It was on my side in a holster.
But you
That's-
figured
that's
if people
open
saw
carry.
that, they'd be scared
What's
off.
wrong with a lot of these prosecutors? They have no idea about.
Somewhat, like I said, it's a presence. It's knowing that somebody's on the
Yeah. Just having police in
in the
neighborhood
area
will
on the
stop crime.
ground, standing there.
Having people there
It's
with a
kind of a
weapon
deterrent
will stop crime.
to keep them away from
Everybody
the
knows
business.
that.
And you'd agree with
Trying
me
to
that
make
the
it like
AR-15s
some-
that the rest
How
of the
dare you
group
come
had
with a
was an
gun?
even bigger deterrent, correct?
To guard property.
A gun is a gun.
In some states, you can. use
And,
a
well,
deadly force to
gun's not just a
protect
gun.
property.
How many guns
Not in
have you,
Wisconsin.
are you familiar
Not
with in your
Illinois.
life?
You cannot
Quite a
use
few. We grew up with
deadly
them.
force.
Including rifles,
Rifles, shotguns, yes. everything.
AR-15s?
Yes.
So you understand there's a big difference between an AR-15 and a pistol, correct?
Between an AR-15 and a pistol, yes.
There's a size difference. One's much bigger, correct?
They can all do the same thing.
They all
One's
do the
much
same
bigger,
thing.
correct?
It's bigger.
Size doesn't
It's
change
bigger.
what can happen or what it
meaner.
does.
Ma'am, did you hear
gun
my
is
question?
meaner.
Yes, it is much
Scarier.
bigger. Yes.
Can you please answer it?
I'm sorry, yes.
Yes.
The AR-15 fires a different caliber than handguns, correct?
Yes.
It fires at
Absolutely.
a higher velocity, correct?
Yes.
It is capable of doing damage to a target much farther away than a
Yes.
pistol, correct?
Yes.
In fact, AR-15 rounds are capable of penetrating body armor, correct?
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
I did not know that. Very good.
So
witness.
you followed
She's
this
a
group
very
of
good
people coming down from the West Bend area to the 63rd Street Car Source, is that right?
Yes.
Before you got there, you had no idea where you were going, you didn't know anything about Car Source, anything like that. Fair to say?
Correct. Yes, correct.
You said at that time you met up with someone who identified themselves as the owner of that location?
Yes.
You personally didn't have any interaction with that owner, did you?
Yeah, I had a conversation with him.
Do you remember speaking with Steve Spingola, an investigator with regard to this incident?
I couldn't recall names, but
On September 8th, 2020, you had a phone call with him at about 5:30 p.m. Do you remember that?
no, I'm sorry, I don't recall what.
You said you've seen your statement to the FBI. Have you seen the statement that you gave to Investigator Spingola?
I guess not, no.
Let me, may I approach your Honor?
Sure.
Well, I think you should first ensure
He's asking
that
the
she
judge.
acknowledges the conversation, because up to this point, she says she doesn't know if she had such a conversation, and
So I'm trying to help.
Go ahead.
I'll help. There's a transcript.
Ms. Fiedler, I'm going to hand you a document here. I'd like you to take a look at it. Take your
Ms.
time.
Fiedler.
And please let me know if you've ever seen that before.
Not sure.
I'm not asking you
Again,
if it's
the
accurate. Ma'am, I'm just asking
prosecutors
if you've
don't
seen
really
it
know that
before.
much about it.
No, I've never seen this.
Fair? That's
I've never
my
seen it. She
question.
might have signed it at the end.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's her statement. They have a. But how can you tell the difference?
You told this individual, Mr. Spingola, that you didn't have any interaction with the owner of CarSource that night, didn't you?
No, I don't even recall the conversation, and that's not true.
Got him again. Got him again.
You decided that night that you were going to protect the location at 59th and Sheridan. Is that correct?
Going back to that because
Well, that was decided for us, but yes, that was
using
the
the weapon to protect the property.
and the
it's
plan,
not worth
yes.
The property.
Who decided that?
Rittenhouse didn't shoot
I
him
believe
to
that was
protect
the owner
property.
and
Kyle
Nick Smith.
Rittenhouse shot him to protect his own life.
That was the
He
first time that night that you'd ever met Nick Smith?
Yes.
I mean, that's
You didn't know anything about him before?
After you,
Nothing.
telling he's going to kill you.
And yet,
That's what you're
based
afraid
on
of.
his decision and the
Got nothing to
owner's
do with the
decision,
weapon. I mean,
you
the property.
agreed voluntarily
We're
to
there
go to
to
the
protect the
59th Street
property.
car source
He's
to
trying to
protect
say
it.
that
Is that
that's
fair to
why-
say?
That's
Yes,
why
that's
he
fair
has
to
a
say.
weapon.
Nobody made you do that.
No,
He's
correct.
there to kill people and protect, or to shoot people to protect property that isn't lawful.
You indicated at one point that the defendant asked you to hold on to his gun while he was helping someone. Is that right?
Yes.
Hey, can we get that? Do we have
That's
it
the
with
second
us?
one that said that.
The gun? Can you get it out, please?
That's Kyle Rittenhouse.
Do you recall how the defendant was wearing that gun that night?
There it is again.
He had the
Another half an
strap
hour?
around his shoulder and body, and then
Supposed to
the
be
gun
only half
pointed
an hour.
down.
The cannon.
The gun was sort of hanging down the front of his body in the middle.
Again,
I think
usually
when he
my
was walking,
podcast,
yeah, but
15,
I know when he
20
was
minutes.
standing there, he would always have a hand
But I've been streaming
across the front of
I guess
it.
for a while.
So, yeah.
Because that's the second time that that's happened.
I'm going to ask Detective Howard to hold on to that gun and show you.
Oh, that's not the same detective.
Check it again, please.
Again, I think it's this guy here that's sitting here. This gentleman here. On the left. I think it's him. He's the mayor of Kenosha's.
Have you both confirmed that it
I
is
think it's that guy.
All right.
The mayor of
Could you
Kenosha's nephew.
stand back a little bit, Detective Howard? I want you to.
Mr. Lukowski, I just have 3 follow-up questions after Attorney Trump.
Ms. Fiedler, can you tell us
At any
in
point,
your own words, and I'll
in
try and
that
have Detective
evening,
Howard
did
sort of
you receive a
demonstrate
report
how was the defendant
that
holding that
you
AR-15
or other folks
when he
guarding
was on the
59th Street
property
needed
if
to
you know?
go down to
That was over
63rd
his
to put out a
shoulder.
fire?
Okay.
No.
Or to deal with any sort of property damage at that location?
No.
Yep.
So when you decided to go down there in the end, it was simply because you heard gunshots?
Yes.
Would the gun hang loose? Or
You were
would it
asked
hold on?
about your
like that.
FBI statement
Okay.
regarding what you
So
heard the
holding it with his
defendant
right
say.
hand
Yes.
on the pistol grip,
Yes.
and sometimes holding it with his left hand or not,
That
depending.
could be, I don't recall.
That was a statement that
I'm
you
pretty
gave
sure
to the
that's how-
FBI on, but when it, September 1st of 2020, does that sound right?
Yes.
That would have been about 6 or 7 days after the incident occurred.
Yes.
Was your memory of what occurred on the night of August 25th fresher in your
I
mind
think this is
at
live.
the time
now.
you
No,
spoke
no,
to the
no,
interview
it's-
than
that
it
was
is
live,
today?
but This
Correct.
is live because they had a.
When you spoke with the FBI, did they identify
This is
themselves as law enforcement agents?
Yes.
Did you understand that they were there to ask you about what had happened on the night of August
Turn it
25th?
off.
Yes.
At that time, did you know that 2 people had been killed that night?
Yes.
Did you feel that you had a responsibility to cooperate with the investigation?
Yes.
Did you feel like you wanted to be as open and honest with the FBI agents as possible?
Yes.
Did you feel like you wanted to give them as much information as you could about the events of that night?
Yes.
When you spoke to them, did you tell them the truth?
Yes.
Did you understand that if you lied to law enforcement, that that would potentially be criminal activity?
Yes.
And when you spoke to the FBI, you were clear with them about what the defendant had said to you when you met him on the street. Is that right?
At that point, when I recollected, yes.
The reason I ask that is because
You don't need to explain.
Sure. When Attorney Chirafisi was asking you, I think you said you weren't sure, as you sit here today, what the defendant said. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Is that because over the last 14 months, some of the details are no longer as clear to you as they were when you spoke to the FBI on September 1st, 2020?
Yes.
Your statement to the FBI, where you told them Rittenhouse's face was pale white, and he stated that he didn't shoot anyone but needed help. That was accurate, correct?
Yes.
That's what he heard. The other witnesses said
that was accurate as the fact.
Do you
It was
understand?
accurate that I had stated that at that point in time, yes.
And was that, in fact, what the defendant had said to you?
From what I recollect at that point in time, yes.
You characterized Mr. Rosenbaum and the way people around him were reacting to him, and I think you disassociating from him. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Did you see anyone else that appeared to be friendly towards Mr. Rosenbaum, or somebody that he was in association with or accompanying that night?
Not that I recall, no.
Did he appear to be solo?
Not that I recall.
Is that better or worse?
I'm a little confused, so help me understand. Did he appear to be in the company of any other people?
I was confused at that. There was people around him, but I'm not sure if they were associated with him.
Seemed like I'm understanding.
Did you see anyone that you felt was associated with him or accompanying him or anything like that?
Not that I recall, no.
You were shown a photograph which has been marked exhibit number 14, and you were asked to identify Mr. Rosenbaum, and you were asked about this person behind him. Do you have any idea who that was?
No, sir.
Do you recall seeing that person at any point on the night of August 25th?
No.
Could we please show an excerpt from exhibit 18?
Yeah. Let's see where I am. Yeah. Kind of amazing. Here it is. I mean, there's so many people with videos and pictures, and it's amazing.
Mr. Lakowski,
to put out
there is a female in this almost center of the video, a little center left, with a backpack on and a dark shirt and blue jeans. Do you see that person?
Yes.
Do you recall ever seeing that person on the night of August 25th?
No.
And I'll state for the record for the jury, there's no dispute. That is Kelly Zeminski, and standing next to her is Joshua Zeminski, whose face can be seen here in exhibit number 40, just for the record. With regard to those two people that I've drawn your attention to,
did you ever see them?
Were they around Mr. Rosenbaum when Mr. Rosenbaum was stepping at you and saying the things he was saying? Do you recall?
Not that I recall.
Not that I recall.
You characterized Mr. Rosenbaum as the most aggressive person out there that night. Is that fair to say?
From my recollection, yes.
Did you ever see him physically harm anyone?
No.
Did you ever hear him threaten to physically harm anyone?
No.
I saw that
at any point.
I didn't. I was there
on the evening of August 25th. Did you personally witness anyone physically harm anyone else?
No.
No. Where's he going with that?
You mentioned that at one point you walked past the Ultimate gas station. And just so we're clear, the Ultimate gas station is right here on the southeast corner of 60th and Sheridan. Do you see where I'm pointing at?
Yes.
And you know, you're from. As you sit here today, you're familiar with that location? Is that a yes?
Yes, sorry.
Is that the location that you're talking about that you passed by at one point?
Yes.
What I want to ask is, where in the timeline did that occur?
Right when I got there, I had parked my vehicle on the
himself.
one street over, and then I walked up.
One of the problems is that Kyle Rittenhouse is so young.
I think it's his 60th.
Would you be able to use that pointer to show us what you just described?
Yes.
I parked somewhere back here, and then I walked up 60th.
Okay. So you're pointing along what I think is 8th Avenue? Is it 8th Avenue there by Library Park, and then walked up to 60th and headed west on 60th.
Yes.
And that was the only time in the evening when you passed by the Ultimate, that you stopped at the Ultimate gas station?
Yes.
The final thing I want to inquire about is the folks that were shouting as you encountered Mr. Rittenhouse, and Mr. Rittenhouse was running north on Sheridan. Okay. I think the one thing that you described hearing is the words "get him." Is
yes.
that right? Do you recall any other specific words that the crowd was saying?
No.
I'm already ready for that. I think I'm already behind.
I'm going to try and ask you to put yourself back in the mindset of that night, at that moment when you heard that. Who did you think the him was?
I'm not too sure, to be honest.
Was it obvious to you that the him was the defendant, Kyle Rittenhouse?
No.
At that moment in time, did you have any reason to believe that the defendant had shot anyone?
No.
Did you have any reason to believe that when people are shouting or pointing or doing whatever, that they were meaning the defendant Kyle Rittenhouse?
No.
I have no further questions.
Any cross?
I do, briefly. When you heard "get him," you didn't know that Mr. Rittenhouse had shot Mr. Rosenbaum, right?
Correct.
Okay. Would it be fair to say, though, whoever they were yelling "get him" to, that person had something to be concerned about?
Yes.
And Mr. Binger asked you, did you see Mr. Rosenbaum yell at anyone or threaten anyone, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you hear anybody else demanding to be shot that evening other than Mr. Rosenbaum?
No.
Did you hear any other white people using racial epithets in the way that Mr. Rosenbaum was using them that evening?
Not that I can recall, no.
Now, I just want to clarify your statement to the FBI. Okay. When Kyle made contact with you, was that in the portion of your statement or your testimony where you don't have a good recollection of it? You had said you had blacked out. Was that during
after the meeting with that little meeting I had with Kyle, and then I had followed him down, and I heard gunshots behind me, and then I had heard gunshots behind me once again. At that point, the next thing I remember is seeing Gage.
Okay, so I'm not being critical about this, but you hear what you believe to be a rifle shots fired near 63rd and Sheridan.
Yes.
You see Kyle Rittenhouse running in your direction.
Yes.
You hear people yelling, "Get him."
Yes.
He tells you, whether he says, "I just shot somebody" or "I didn't shoot somebody, but I need help," at that point, you don't suspect that he may have been the person who shot someone?
It didn't cross my mind, no.
Is that in part because he wasn't aggressive during the night?
I'm going to object.
Correct.
This is beyond the scope.
Even if it is, I generally do not adhere strictly to that rule. So,
is that part of, you wouldn't have a reason to believe he shot someone because he wasn't acting aggressive? When I say he, meaning Mr. Rittenhouse.
Correct.
My final question is this. As you sit here now and think about that statement, does it make more logical sense to you that he would have said that he shot somebody and he needs help versus he didn't shoot somebody but needs help?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. This is beyond the scope. It's been asked and answered, and the record is clear that this witness has testified to what the defendant has said.
Why don't you rephrase your question? The first part, they asked and answered, as I said, we're here to develop the facts for the jury, and we all have seen abuses where people lie back and hold their questions until they're into a redirect or a recross. But I haven't seen that from either side in this case, so I'm not going to swerve from my usual indulgence with these kinds of things. But on the second point, I think the question should be restructured.
Okay. So I know that you've testified about what you believe you heard that night, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I'm asking that you do is, have you looked at your statement since you gave it? Have you ever read your statement?
A few days ago, and then in the court.
Who had you read your statement?
Myself.
Well, who gave it to you? Sorry.
I did.
Okay. So you met with Mr. Binger?
Yes.
I want to be clear. Is this his statement or a statement, a summary made by the FBI?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the statement that Mr. Binger provided to you was a statement written by the FBI saying what you told them?
Yes.
Okay. So remembering that, now my question to you was this. Having read that statement, and the portion I'm talking about is what Kyle said to you, does it make more logical sense to you today, or when you had, and he can shake his head if he wants, while you're sitting here now, why would he need help if he didn't shoot someone?
I'm going to object.
Okay. I have no other questions. Thank you.
I have one final question. Mr. Witkowski, you said you didn't think that Get Him was aimed at Mr. Rittenhouse, right?
Yes.
I didn't know.
At that moment in time, you didn't think Mr. Rittenhouse shot anybody because he said he didn't shoot anybody, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, you may step down, sir.
You may step down. This will be up for the day. I'm going to get to my today's tax talk. It's actually Crypto Tuesday, so we're going to talk about crypto. So it's going to happen here. I don't think they're not going to start another witness today, this late in the day. They would start another witness, I wouldn't think. So. Okay.
Call Amber Rasmussen.
Oh, they are going. Another witness. They are asking for another witness. I think it's probably makes sense for me to. Let's see who she is.
Can you please state your name and spell it for the benefit of the court reporter?
Take your mask off.
Amber Rasmussen, AMBER RASMUSSEN.
And where are you employed?
I am employed at the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory in Milwaukee.
And what is your position there?
I am a DNA analyst in the DNA analysis unit.
And how long have you been a DNA analyst?
I have been employed as a DNA analyst for just over 10 years.
And what is your educational background?
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Biology and Human Biology from the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, as well as a Master's of Science in Forensic Science from Marshall University.
And what are your primary duties as a forensic scientist in DNA analysis?
This is the other guy that was related to the...
As a DNA analyst, we will receive evidence, analyze that evidence for any possible biological materials, attempt to develop a DNA profile from that evidence, make any comparisons to known individuals, write a report on our findings, and testify to those findings in court if needed.
And have you received any specialized training in the areas of DNA analysis?
Yes. In addition to my education, I also received approximately 9 months of on-the-job training prior to being signed off as a full DNA analyst. I also undergo annual training and review current literature.
And are you a member of any professional organizations related to forensic science?
Yes. I am a member of both the Midwest Association of Forensic Science as well as the American Academy of Forensic Sciences.
And is your laboratory accredited by any organization?
Yes. We are accredited by it's ANAB, which is an acronym for another acronym, but it is American National Accreditation Board. ANSI, ASQ, National Accreditation Board.
And is there any sort of proficiency testing or peer reviewing that you participate at your laboratory?
Yes, we participate in both proficiency testing and peer review. Proficiency testing is when an external company provides us a test with known results, and we work that test as if it were a case and send our results back to them, and they verify that we obtain the correct results on that case. Peer review or technical review is when another analyst evaluates our work and work we did on a case, and they review every case. Another trained analyst will review every case that we work within the lab.
And what actually is what people commonly refer to as DNA? What actually is it?
DNA is often referred to as the building block of life. It is present in all living things. It is the same throughout your body. It is unique to each individual except for identical twins, and it's what makes you who you are. It's what makes you a human. It's what determines your genetic characteristics.
And how do you test for DNA, or what's the process you use?
So for forensic testing, we look at areas of DNA that aren't typically associated with physical characteristics. They are areas often referred to as junk DNA, but we have found these areas that vary from individual to individual, and one individual may have the same DNA type at a location as another, but when we look at multiple types, that will vary from person to person, and we can use that totality of DNA types within an individual's DNA profile to differentiate between DNA from different people.
Now, when I read these reports, there's something called an STR. What is an STR?
An STR is a specific reference to the type of DNA we look at. STR stands for short tandem repeat, which is the small repeated sequences of DNA that we use for our analysis.
And how do you, is that kind of analysis a commonly or generally accepted procedure in forensic science?
Yes, it is.
And how do you go about doing a STR DNA analysis?
So first we will take an item of evidence, whether it is swabs or clothing, and we will take a sample from that item, and we will subject that sample to a series of reagents in order to break open any cells that may be present, clean up that sample from anything that is not DNA, and end up with a small volume of liquid that contains purified DNA. We will then take that small sample and count how much DNA is present and run it through our system to make copies of those used in our analysis.
Now, I've placed a document in front of you that has been labeled in another way, Exhibit 22. Can you please take a look at that document and tell me if you recognize it?
Is this the document?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, this is a copy of my confidential report of laboratory findings for laboratory case R20-2992, dated June 25th, 2021. And I can tell that it is my report because there is my signature on the first page and my initials on each subsequent page.
So did you review that report before coming to testify today?
Yes.
And is this, as far as you can, is this a true and accurate copy of your report?
Yes.
I'd like to move Exhibit 22 into evidence. Now, in this case, is this case related to the Kyle Rittenhouse? This report related to the Kyle Rittenhouse case?
Yes.
And what did you receive to test for DNA in this case?
In this case, we received 3 sets of swabs from a firearm, 2 sets of swabs from an ammunition magazine, and 3 standard or reference samples from known individuals.
What is a standard or reference sample?
A standard or reference is a sample that is directly collected from a person, and we use that to establish what that individual's DNA profile is, and we can then use that for comparison to any questioned evidentiary profiles we obtain.
In the 3 standards in this case you received from Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber, and Kyle Rittenhouse?
Yes.
Now, Kyle Rittenhouse's standards is called a buccal swab. What is that?
A buccal swab is a swab of the buccal cells, which are the inside of your cheek. Contains buccal swabs. So these are basically swabs that are taken from the inside of a person.
The ones from Mr. Rosenbaum and Mr. Huber are dried blood standards. What are those?
Dried blood standards are when blood is applied to usually a card, and then we can take a sample of that blood to develop a profile.
So you can get the DNA from the dried blood?
Yes.
And you talked about swabs from a firearm and from some ammunition magazines. Can you describe how that process is done?
Which part of the process?
I'm sorry. What do you mean by swabs? Like, what do you actually receive?
So in this case, what was received were envelopes containing swab boxes, which are small boxes that contain basically a wooden stick with cotton on the end, a long-handled Q-tip. And each of those boxes was marked as having been collected from a different area of either the firearm or from a magazine. In this case, there was 1 set of swabs marked as having been collected from a trigger, another from a barrel guard, and another from a pistol grip, and then 2 sets from a magazine. And what we do is we will cut off the cotton portion of that swab, and that is what proceeds in our testing to try to develop a DNA profile.
So is it your understanding that someone would have taken that swab, swabbed the parts or the items that are listed, and then packaged it up and sent them to you?
Yes.
So it's being represented to you that the gun has been swabbed by these Q-tips?
Yes.
Or not technically Q-tip, but. Now, did you find any DNA on any of those swabs?
Yes.
Where did you find DNA?
There was DNA detected on all 5 of those evidentiary items.
And what did you do once DNA was detected?
I attempted to develop a profile from each of those, and then attempted to interpret those profiles and make any comparisons to those.
Now, for the trigger swab, was there any DNA found from the trigger swab?
Yes.
And who was the source of that DNA?
A single source male profile was obtained from the swabs from the trigger, and Kyle Rittenhouse is the source of that DNA profile.
Now, the next finding is swabs from the barrel guard. Is that a part of a gun?
Yes.
And what were the findings